Report each month live here on WCAB. The reports are heard the following morning after the meetings. WCAB, keeping you informed as well as entertained.
Start the day with local news with the popular morning report at 6:55 a.m. Get North Carolina news, national news from ABC, and local reports from Lake Lure to Cliffside. Be the first to know on WCAB. We are country at its best with a blend of yesterday's memories. WCAB, Rutherfordton.
This is Joe Mimoni, headmaster of Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy, a Challenge Foundation Academy. Did you know that our high school is ranked as one of the best college preparatory high schools, not only in North Carolina, but in the entire country? So, if you are seeking a classical education offering honors and advanced placement courses in high school and the core knowledge sequence in grades K through 8, please join us for an open house on Friday, February 28th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our grammar school, grades K through 5, is located at 1110 South Broadway in Forest City, and our upper campus is located at 2527 Highway 221A in Henrietta. Please visit our website, tjca.teamcfa.org, for applications for the coming school year. The application deadline is Friday, March 14th. We hope to welcome you to our school family.
We'll see enough upper-level moisture for some high clouds around the region early on today. It looks like we'll turn partly to mostly sunny, though, as the day wears on. It should be comfortably mild out and less humid than yesterday, with highs in the low to mid-60s. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy. We'll have light winds, lows dropping into the mid-30s to around 40. And we'll see a mix of sunshine and clouds to close out the weekend on Sunday, warming a little more tomorrow, highs about 65 to 70, and then turning cooler again for Monday. I'm meteorologist Mike Moss in the Weather Center.
WCAB.
That was the International Morse Code signal, and that marks the beginning of my program, Gilbert Talks Taxes, because as we all know, taxation with representation has not been such a good idea either. Welcome to my program this Saturday morning, February 22. I lost the day in there somewhere, Jay. 2014. My engineer today is Jay. Good morning, everyone. You are listening to WCAB 590 AM. You're also listening to us on Northland Cable Channel 5, and we are streaming live on www.wcab59.com, where you can see us live right here in the Blue Room. Good morning, everyone. You can call the program with questions that you have about taxes, any tax issues that you're having, any letters you may have received from any taxing authority that you don't know what they mean. Call us here. You can call the station at 828-287-3356. You can call me. I have my cell phone here at 828-289-9300. You can also go to my website, gilberttalkstaxes.com. Go to the Contact Us link, type in your question, hit send. Our laptop is here, and I will try to get those questions live on the air. If I can't, I will do my best to reply to you this week. Before I start talking about taxes, I would like to tell all our listeners what happened last week. Many of you know, some of you don't know. We tried to tell everyone we could. But last Friday, the 14th, my son, Gilbert Lazarus Carmona, was in a car accident in Charlotte. He was actually going to work in Charlotte on I-85, and he slowed down for some ice that was on the highway, and a semi-truck that was coming behind him did not stop, did not slow down. We don't know yet what happened, but he hit the vehicle my son was in from behind, and my son was dead by the time he got to the hospital. The doctors, in an effort to console us, and we're grateful for the hospital and the doctor staff there, told us that he never knew what happened. He went unconscious right when the accident happened, and he never regained consciousness till he died. First of all, I want to thank all the churches and all the people of Rutherford County that prayed for us, especially the people that sent word back to us, our friends and family at Southern Baptist Church, our friends and family at Tanner's Grove Church, our special friends at Holly Springs Baptist Church, our friends at Wells Fargo Bank in Rutherfordton and Rutherford County Bank in Forest City. You're also special to us, and we thank you for your love. We thank you for your support. We thank you for all the flowers and the cards and the gifts and the cake and the food. I don't know how we would have gotten through this time without all of you. We especially want to thank our church family at the Word of Faith Fellowship. They really are our family, and at a time like this, you really know who your family and your friends really are. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Jim and Faye Bishop, the owners of WCAB, for their support. And a lot of people were surprised because last Saturday morning, I came in and did the program, and it was a really tough decision for us to make. The reason I did that is there were so many of you that we wanted to tell personally, and we know that a lot of you that listen to my program and have been listening to my program, I just didn't want you to hear it this way. And the obituaries, because it happened on a Friday and the newspaper was not going to come out till the Sunday paper comes out late Saturday, we knew you wouldn't have seen it in the paper, and we just wanted to tell you personally. But I got to tell you, it has really been, this has been a unique experience. Gilbert and I have been together our whole lives. Well, he's been with me his whole life. He's been with me more than half of my life. And he's always been with me. Friday morning, I was at work when I got the message that he had been in a car accident. There was a passenger who was hurt a little, but not much. So he's the one that called, made all the phone calls there at the scene of the accident. And the message I got was that there was a car accident. It was very bad, and that Gilbert was unconscious, and the ambulance was on its way. And I was at my office here in Rutherfordton, and I stopped and I said, God, what do I do? And as peaceful and as tranquil as it came to me, it was, I heard, it's going to be all right. And that's all I heard. It's going to be all right. So Gilbert's wife, Storm, and her father, Harry, went on to go to the hospital. And I just heard, it's going to be all right. You've got responsibilities here to the people, as I don't just do tax preparation, I do financial planning, and I do fiduciary, and there were checks that had to go out, and there were people that needed their money, and there were people that were coming to get their money, and there were things that I had to do. And I said, do I need to go to the hospital? No, it's going to be all right. So at 12 o'clock, we all met at our pastor's house. At that point, I still didn't know what had happened. We met at our pastor's house, and we were all told the news. Of course, Storm and Harry knew right away because they were at the hospital, but they came back to be with us, and we all knew. Cry, we cried. Grieve, we've grieved. But I got to go back to what God spoke to my heart that morning. It's going to be all right. We loved my son, but we have a strong testimony and a strong witness that my son was a born-again Christian. He'd given his life to Jesus. He trusted Jesus in everything. The people whose lives he touched, the people he's affected, the people he's loved, it was evident at the turnout at the memorial service. And all I can say is, it's going to be all right. I can't tell you the life I have. I can't tell you how happy I am. You go to so many funerals, and they try telling you that the person's in heaven. And you look at that person's lifestyle, and you walk away kind of shaking your head, looking down. Because we really don't know. We have an expression, they tried to preach him into heaven. I didn't have to preach my son into heaven at his memorial. My son found heaven all on his own. And it's the witness and the testimony and the people that just kept calling and just keep saying, your son said this, your son did this, your son helped me with that. It's been unbelievable. So Saturday morning, well, let me back up. So we left my pastor's house, Sam and Jane Whaley, and we went back to the office because I said, I'm going to go back to my office and I'm going to finish the things that need to be done. And then we were having friends and family over at the house. So we went back to the office and did what I could, did what I needed to, went home, and everybody came over. We just kept making our phone calls and just reaching out to family, and everybody was so touched, and it was just such a precious time. Then Saturday morning I woke up and I said, God, what do I do today? I don't have this program taped so I could just give the engineer a DVD and said, let's run a tape. And I didn't want to just run another, let them run music or anything. I wanted to just hear the voice of God. At our church, we preach, you can hear the voice of God. Every person that believes can hear the voice of God. So I said, Jesus, what do I do? And I heard so clear again, get dressed, get ready, put your jewelry on, get your notes, and go do your program. And that's what I did. And I had a great time talking about taxes. We left here, we went back to the office, and we started just making phone calls to people. And then the people that came, our friends and our business associates, the people that came, it was just an opportunity to reach out to every one of them and tell them what happened. And it was the best time. We just had so much life. We shared about Gilbert. We shared about what he did, just his life. And then Saturday night, people came over to the house, and it just continued to be that. The phone calls, we were talking to people till 1 in the morning. So Sunday, we had our memorial service, and a lot of people just knew my son as the school teacher, but they didn't know a lot about him. And there's one part of his life that I want to share. When he was young, actually when he was in kindergarten, they decided that he couldn't learn. When I say they, I'm talking about the administration and the school teachers and the different people that were in his life. Said he couldn't learn. By the time he was in second grade, they had labeled him ADD, learning disability, and said that he would never be able to learn. He probably would drop out at age 16, and that was pretty much it, and tried to put him on medications. Well, I felt as a Christian, I felt that he didn't need to be on those medications. I felt that God heals, and I believe that God heals. Sometimes God heals through the doctor. Sometimes God heals through the medication. Sometimes God healed divinely. We don't know. But I wanted at least the option and the opportunity and the time to find out what God was going to do. But unfortunately, I was up against a school system that didn't see things the way I saw things. And my son's favorite story was when he was in second grade, and the school board called me in because I refused to put him on medication. And I walked into a room with 6 people, and they had all the chairs set up in a circle with an empty chair for me. And I sat in that chair, and they proceeded for the next hour to tell me why I was wrong and why I was an abusive parent for not giving my son this medication that he had to have. I stood my ground. How can you say that an 8-year-old is doomed for failure because you said so? No proof, no evidence, no anything. So he gets distracted. What 8-year-old doesn't get distracted? They said he couldn't focus. I don't know. I saw him sit in front of the television set for 3 hours at a time. That's pretty focused, if you ask me. And when I suggested that maybe the problem was they couldn't teach, or they weren't teaching, they really got mad at me. So the head man, who was a doctor and had a PhD, stands up and he says, Mr. Carmona, you're putting way too much stress on your son, expecting him to succeed. And I said, no, I'm expecting him to succeed because I'm a good parent. And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Carmona, where is your PhD? So I went back to the house, and I was furious. And I looked at my son, and I said, I don't need a PhD. I've got a DAD. To which there was that, 3-second pause, and then he went, DAD, because you're dad. And he always told that story. So I always told him he could do it. We moved here to North Carolina, to Rutherford County, so I could enroll him at the Word of Faith Christian School, because I always knew that they cared about him. And his teacher in the beginning was Robin Webster, Sam and Jane's daughter, and Robin loved Gilbert, and Robin did everything she could for Gilbert. She tutored him, she worked with him, Patty Dolan, all the other people that just loved him and reached out to him and worked with him and tutored him. And he didn't drop out at age 16. Oh, another part of the story is that when the man told me that I was expecting him to do too much, he said, you really, the most we can hope for him is that he can get a job in the fast food industry. Maybe he can qualify to flip hamburgers and have stable income. Well, in high school, he didn't drop out. He didn't get a job in the fast food industry. And his heart's desire was to be a school teacher. Because of everything that got put in him and all the love that got put in him in school, he wanted to turn around and put that love and that hope and that faith into other children. And I shared about how he came up to me one day and he said, because after he graduated high school, he came to work with me for a while because that's what he wanted to do. And I required him to hear God's voice. What is God telling you to do? And he came up to me one day and he said, I really feel I've heard that I'm going to be a school teacher. And I said, great. What do we need to do? So he had already been taking some classes at isothermal, but just, general classes. He really wasn't focused. He applied for and was accepted at East Carolina in their education program. He received a full scholarship. It was a full scholarship and then some. He graduated from East Carolina University with honors. The boy who would never amount to anything and couldn't learn did it. And he always gave God the glory. He never said he did it. He said God did it with him. So I shared at the end of the memorial that just about, 4, 5, 6 months ago, he was eating with some friends, all other young men his age, who are either still in college or just graduated, and they were all talking about their degrees and how much money they're going to make, and the reason they're getting this degree is because they can do that and how well it's going to pay. And he came home really, really sad about that whole thing, and he said, Dad, I don't care if I ever make any money. All I want to do is help children, and help children that have been neglected, rejected, and ignored by a system that doesn't care about them. Today, my son is the richest man I know. We have that conviction, and we have that faith that we're going to see him again. And the song that was sung was When We All Get to Heaven. And we just believe it. The other song we sang was In the Sweet By and By. And we just believe it. And I want to thank him, if I could thank him, for just everything he did for me. In the scripture that Christy, my wife, had this morning, he only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense and my fortress. I shall not be moved. With God rests my salvation and my glory. He is my rock of unyielding strength and impenetrable hardness, and my refuge is in the Lord. Before him, God is a refuge for us. And I want to thank everybody again. Now, with the last 5 minutes that I have, Jay's telling me I've got 10 minutes. Okay, with the last 10 minutes that I have, let's actually talk about some taxes. I've got some questions this week, and I've got some very interesting questions. Some I tried to answer. Some I'm going to have to research, and I'm going to have to get back to you on them. Some of the questions are really particular to your business and what it is you do, and I'm going to have to another one came through just now. I think Don, I answered this question. Maybe I didn't. Don asked a question. My parents are deceased, and you're remodeling their house possibly for rent. Is the money I spend in 2013 for the remodeling deductible or not? Okay, great question. And I get similar variations to this question quite a bit. So maybe I may be confusing this with another question. But if you inherited the house. I'm assuming you inherited the house, which, we have no inheritance tax. Up to $5 million and change, it's 5.2 million. There's no inheritance tax. Anything over that, there is a tax. So I'm assuming you inherited this house free and clear. Now, if you move into this house and make it your primary dwelling, your principal residence, know that anything you do to the house is not deductible. That now becomes part of the basis in the house. And there's rules to the basis of a house or a basis of any property that you inherit. And it's I really don't want to get into all those rules right now. They're very complicated. They're simple if you know what the situation is. They're complicated when you look at them because a lot of different scenarios are addressed. But let's just assume for right now you inherited this house free and clear. You have clear title. You're going to rent it. It's going to be a rental activity. You fully intend it to be a rental activity, and you're remodeling it for that purpose. That money you spend remodeling it is now a business expense. Completely, you can expense it. You can depreciate it. There are rules there, and there's the Section 179 rules, what you can expense in a year or what you have to depreciate. If you decide to make it your principal residence, then now that remodeling money goes towards your basis, and it's deducted from any gain you may make on the house when you sell the house. I got some questions about Form 4562 depreciation. Diane, I'm going to have to get back to you on those. There's some issues there. There's several questions regarding the use of company vehicles by employees. Section B, there's several questions regarding the use of company vehicles. Can these questions be left blank? Yes, they can. You need to look at them. What the IRS is trying to determine there is they want to clarify business use versus personal use of these company vehicles. Company vehicles is a very complicated issue because at what point is the employee using a company vehicle on his time versus company time? What should be depreciated, what shouldn't, what should be expensed, what shouldn't. So let me get back to you. I'll answer you that. Now, the last sentence on your email, what is the purpose of these questions? Well, that's that. What will cause or trigger an audit? And that is what's behind 99% of the questions I get. What will cause or trigger an audit? So let me spend 1 minute on that. I don't know what will trigger an audit specifically. I've heard a lot of things. The IRS tends to be very closed-mouthed on what exactly is an audit flag. Many audits are random. And just because you've been selected for an audit doesn't mean you did anything wrong. A lot of people that get an audit letter call me. First, they're in a panic, and then they're trying to find out what they did wrong. You may have done nothing wrong. And the letter doesn't tell you it's a random audit. The letter just says you've been selected for audit. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And the IRS knows that a lot of times people will tell on themselves. Most of you remember the story I told about the man that got a letter from the IRS saying he owed them $1,300, and he called them himself, and by the time he hung up the phone, he owed them $6,000. So a lot of times these are just random, and there is nothing you can really do. I know a lot of the big tax prep firms advertise, we can audit-proof your return. That's simply not true. All I tell people is, let's try to follow the law the best we can. Let's interpret it prima facie, what the book says, and just move on and pray for the best. But I will get back to you on those other depreciation questions. I got a question from Warren. The company purchased a new vehicle in 2013. Now, there are some guidelines for that, and I really need to get back to you with that, Warren. Section 179 depreciation, you can actually go back and retro to 2012, but for 2013, the limits are, the depreciation limit is $500,000, and the limit on capital purchases is $2,000, and there's a bonus depreciation of 50%. Now, I really need to sit down and look at your situation. You quoted me there's a limit of 3,600, 3,360. I need to explain that to you, and I need to look at your situation. And I'm starting to run out of time, so be looking for an email or a phone call from me on that. Then I got another question about Form 1125E, percent of time devoted to business. Why is the IRS asking this question? Because they want to know if this is a hobby or a full-time activity or lots of activities that you're trying to write off together in one form. And I've got your email address. I will get back to you on that. I've got a question for my listeners and the people that go to my website and listen to this program later. It is on my website, so you can go back and listen to it. I had something show up on my front doorstep yesterday that I have never seen before. I had never even heard about it, and I try to stay up on tax law. It is a Form 1099-A, acquisition of property. A taxpayer had his home foreclosed on and repossessed. He actually walked away from it. He was underwater, another victim of the 2008 to 2010 stock market real estate debacle. He bought a house that appraised for, that appraised for way more than it was worth. Excuse me, I'm coughing. And he got this form. 1099-A. If anybody has one, please call me.
A lot of stations can play great music, but it's what we do between the music that sets us apart. Serving the foothills of the Carolinas, we're family-friendly radio, WCAB.
Today's hits and yesterday's memories, WCAB Rutherfordton.
Foot and Ankle Center of the Carolinas has moved, but not far. Come visit them in their new location at 289 Shallow Road, Forest City. Remember, your feet don't have to hurt. See them for treatment of ingrown nails, heel pain, in-office bunion and corn surgery, nerve pain. In-house x-rays available as well. That's Carolina Foot and Ankle Center of the Carolinas, 289 Shallow Road, Forest City.
We'll see enough upper-level moisture for some high clouds around the region early on today. It looks like we'll turn partly to mostly sunny, though, as the day wears on. It should be comfortably mild out and less humid than yesterday, with highs in the low to mid-60s. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy. We'll have light winds, lows dropping into the mid-30s to around 40. And we'll see a mix of sunshine and clouds to close out the weekend on Sunday, warming a little more tomorrow, highs about 65 to 70, and then turning cooler again for Monday. I'm meteorologist Mike Moss in the Weather Center.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Discoveries in Health. I'm your host, Chris McKay, and I'm really glad you're with me today because today we're going to be talking about an issue that affects each and every one of us, and that's stress. And believe it or not, whether it's job stress, financial stress, family stress, or even the little things that we're told not to stress about, any form of stress takes a serious physical toll on your body. But don't worry, because there is something you can do about your stress. And joining me today on the phone